slower, but there's not a lot else you can do. My main games would be things like city builders or base builders or things like XCOM. XCOM? Yes, XCOM. But over time, I was playing World of Warships, and so one of the YouTubers that I used to watch said, "Hey, I've just found this really neat game," and he put out one video of Farming Simulator, and that was it. He did it once, and that was the first and last Farming Simulator video he produced. He's no longer doing YouTube videos. But, I watched the video and I thought, actually, that doesn't look too bad. And it's sort of educational. I've learned a lot about farming since I started playing Farming Simulator, and generally I try and be somewhat realistic in how I do things in Farming Simulator. Should be mostly fine. It's a little bit close. It's mostly fine. Run over here. And the same with Train Simulator. It was like, how exciting can it be? But I watched someone doing a YouTube video playing Train Simulator, and it's not so much the restrictions of, what can you do driving a train down 2 metal rails? It's getting the train to certain points in time, stopping in the right place. Don't blow through a red signal because that's bad. Make sure you stop at the platform so the people can get on and off. So it's all sorts of, that's the challenge of the game. The challenge of the game isn't, like Truck Sim, keep the truck on the road. And this game has its own, goals. And they're mostly player goals. Don't ask me what my goal is yet, because, as I said, I do generally play as realistically as possible. So I'm going to spend this week doing some research into Missouri farming. What do they grow? What is the agricultural sector of Missouri like, especially around Alma, if I can find something that specific. My first streaming farm was Lawfolds, which is Scotland. It's a real place. And very nice map. And I played it as a Scottish farm. So there was a lot of barley. Usually 50% of my crop was barley, even though barley is definitely not the best crop you can grow in Farming Simulator. It's good for animal food. It has a slightly better yield than wheat and a slightly lower value, but it's really not a brilliant crop. If you're min-maxing, it's not the best crop. But Scotland, barley, Scotch is made from barley, so that was the thing. Back in Farm Sim 17, oats wasn't a crop, so growing oats wasn't really an option. Oh, hush. No, shush. Hush. Good grief. Seriously? Thank you. Sorry about that. But yeah, so I would grow barley. I think I did grow sugar beets. I did a lot of logging. there was some wheat, I think some canola, definitely no corn initially, because corn is not grown in Scotland. However, towards the end of the period of Farming Simulator 17, before Farming Simulator 19 came out, I happened to be reading about agriculture in Scotland, and it turned out that 2 farms in Scotland had been selected to grow a special breed of maize, which was intended as animal food. And so they were doing a limited sort of a field or 2 a year, just to see what the yield would be like. So it was a trial crop that was generally not grown in Scotland. So justification, I'm one of those 2 farms and I'm going to grow corn so that I can feed my pigs with it. So that's kind of how, I do things. So when sugarcane comes out, not growing sugarcane in Scotland. It's not a crop that you grow in Scotland. I generally play British farms, so we're not growing cotton, we're not growing sugarcane, what else aren't we growing? We're not growing rice for this this version of Farming Simulator. However, I'm in Alma, Missouri. I think I might be able to grow rice here. So there's the option of growing lots and lots of crops that I usually limit myself from growing because they're not a crop that is grown in the region of the map that I'm playing on. So that's kind of the justification. So that's part of my goal is to at least make it somewhat realistic. But then I usually have, something, whether it's get the cow breeding achievement, get the sheep breeding achievement. Farm Sim 19, I was playing on Oakfield Farm, modified by the farming agency, and they had set it up so that there were 3 sheep pastures, 500 sheep per pasture maximum. So my goal was from about 10 or 20 sheep starting out, my goal was to build a farm that had 1,500 sheep on it. And I managed that. I got a farm with 1,500 sheep, and every year I would sell about 750 of them, along with the wool. And by the end of the year, I would have 1,500 sheep again, because 750 adult sheep make for 750 baby sheep, mostly. And because I was using Realismus's seasons at that time, wool production was very limited. It only happened during January, February, March, maybe April. But I made as much money selling wool as I made selling sheeps. Sometimes more selling sheeps. So that was kind of fun. And I did not do any cows or any pigs or any chickens for that one. It was just, this is going to be a sheep and arable farm. And we just kept the sheep running. In other farms I've done, I'm going to make this a cattle farm, and so we're going to just breed cattle like crazy. Which can get interesting. Awful lot of manure involved. So I ended up spreading manure on all the fields. That's kind of where I got to with precision farming. What I'll generally do is I'll come out that field there that has all the straw bales in it. What I would normally do, I'd come out with a manure or slurry spreader and just prime the field nitrogen levels up to about 80 to 120, and then from there I would plant a crop and then I'd come out with a sprayer and get precise nitrogen injection on the soil. But it was just sort of a let's get a boost of nitrogen in the field for now, and we'll worry about planting crops and topping it off. You have to be careful doing that, because some crops do not need a lot of nitrogen. When you're talking corn, maize, or whatever part of the world you're from, then yes, corn needs a ton of nitrogen, and so therefore dumping a load of manure on the field before you plant it is a good move. But for things like sunflowers, I think sunflowers only needs about 80 litres a hectare or something like that. And so you risk over fertilising a field before you even plant the stuff. Buying a new field, sometimes you've got to be very careful. Check your pH levels before you consider planting. I've had issues where, we can go to the map. Precision farming, soil types, pH. So I can only see my fields at the moment. This pH is lousy. And needs to be about, I think 6.5, 7.5 is the general. So we're going to have to come back and spread some stuff on that. But the nitrogen on this field is just horrible. The nitrogen on this field is excellent and what's required, but you'll see it's 180 to 200. This is a cornfield. This field probably only needs 140. This field needs 40, and you'll see that when I come back to that field and spray fertilizer before we spray some fertilizer on it. You'll be able to see exactly what is going on there. So different crops, different fertilizer levels, and if you don't get it right, you damage the yield. So if a crop needs 120, 140, and you put 200 on it, that crop is not going to grow well. There's too much nitrogen in the soil. It's going to be very unhappy. And that usually happens when you buy a new field and you discover the pH in this field is horrible for what I'm planning to plant in there. So I might buy a field and say, okay, I'm going to buy this field and this year I'm going to plant sunflowers in it because I have a need for sunflowers as pig food or whatever. Or I need some sunflower oil to work up a production. And if I do that, I've got to recheck the field that I just bought to make sure that I am not going to destroy my sunflower crop by having it too much nitrogen in the soil before we even go. This map we've had, all the fields need ploughed, so I'm going to need to get some form of culti-plough. I think I've got big tractors, so I can get a really big culti-plough to rip the soil. One of the fields has corn in it, so not only does it need to be ploughed, it's going to need to be ploughed more so. And if we're going to plant corn in any of our fields, that's going to be an ongoing concern. And precision farming is not happy about you using ploughs. Prefers direct seeding, direct drilling. But, we work to the parameters. In real life, I'm a computer programmer. I work on what parameters make a thing happen. It's quite funny. One of my friends, way back in the early 90s, there was a game, LucasArts X-Wing, which was, for its time, almost a flight simulator for a Star Wars X-Wing and Y-Wing. And eventually A-Wings and B-Wings were added. But he was playing through the campaign, and he'd come into work one day and said, I'm having real problems, it's not working. And all of a sudden he had a eureka moment. He just sort of, this is a computer program. There is no AI. Back in the early 90s, there was no AI. So it was really a case of, there's a group of 3 TIE fighters attacking, Alpha 1, 2, and 3. And initially he'd go out there and he'd shoot up Alpha, he'd shoot up whichever TIE fighter happened to be in front of him and work his way through them. And then the shuttle he's protecting gets destroyed by Alpha 2. It's like, well done. And he eventually figured out, no matter what, 5 minutes after the TIE fighters appear, Alpha 2 destroys the shuttle. So the only goal he had at that point was, as soon as the TIE fighters appear, I need to blow up Alpha 2. Alpha 1 and Alpha 3 do not matter at this point. Alpha 2 must die. So he would concentrate on Alpha 2, and his shuttle wouldn't get destroyed. The other 2 ships couldn't destroy the shuttle, because the program was, if this TIE fighter exists after 5 minutes into the battle, your shuttle will be destroyed. And so he got past that step. And then, some other facility got destroyed, or one of his wingmen got destroyed. And it's like, okay, how do I stop my wingman from being destroyed? If I destroy TIE Fighter 3, my wingman survives, and then my wingman will destroy TIE Fighter 1 for me. So he'd slowly build up just basically a list of, this is what the programmers put in the game to make it easier or harder for you to win. Or if you don't do this before then, you lose. And if you do this before then, your wingman become useful to you and will actually assist in killing targets and reducing the number of things that are shooting at you. And Farming Simulator is the same idea. You do this, this, and this, and you will get this in return. Now, a lot of the stuff is hidden. You have to test it. Like, how quickly does a tractor maintenance requirement come up? How much wheat do you get off a field of whatever size? And we could actually find that out now, because obviously we've done crop type. This field here is 17 acres. No, the field is 13.83 acres. If we go here, I have 60,000 litres of, actually 64, because we fed 4,000 to the chickens, but 64,000 litres in 13.8 acres at about 50% yield. So theoretically, if I can perfect if I plough that field, and I fertilise it correctly, and I put enough lime on it, I should get 120,000 litres of wheat from that field if I plant wheat in there again. Now, I might not. I might rotate my crops, and I might plant corn in that field and something else in what is currently the cornfield. So, yeah. But it's managing your expectations, and from that same that one, if I, let's Productions. Oh no, this one. Prices, yes. Wheat at the bottom of the list. Wheat is a very sad price. It's about 2% higher than the lowest it can get. Best time to sell it's January. So I could plot ahead. I could say, well, I want to sell it in January. Or I could say, well, heck, I'm running out of money in October. It's going to be better in November, so the longer I can wait. But at some point, I'm going to have to sell something. I can expect to get over 30,000 for that if I don't sell it today. And of course, the big thing, there's two big things I tend to figure out for Farming Simulator. Don't borrow money unless it's going to make you some money right now. So, I mean, I've got all of the harvesters and what have you, but if I had a harvester and a draper header, and I need a corn header. If I don't have a corn header, I can't mow that or harvest that corn field. So buying a corn header will allow me to harvest that cornfield. It's going to make me money right away. Buying a chainsaw, I can cut down some trees, do a little bit of logging. It's going to make me money straight away. But I'm not going to spend money on a big tree harvester when I can just do it with a chainsaw for now. Later on I might get a tree harvester, but for now a chainsaw is good enough, and a tractor with front loader arms and log forks will allow me to pick up the tree, stick it on a trailer and sell it, or get a wood chipper. Yeah, the sort of what are the cheap options to achieve what I need to right now. But I'm not going to buy I'm not going to borrow money and buy a tractor. I've got 3 perfectly good tractors. It would be nice to have a 4th, but I don't need it to get the tasks that I have in front of me done. If I've got a 4-meter seeder, I don't need to borrow money to get a 6-meter seeder, because I've already got a seeder, and the 4-meter seeder does the job. It just takes longer. And it's no big deal sitting in a tractor driving up and down a field seeding at 4 meters rather than 6. But eventually I might get to the point where, you know what, I just need a bigger seeder because this is taking way too long. The other thing is once you start buying land, you can borrow money to buy land. And especially if you're going to borrow money, buy land, harvest a crop, sell the crop, pay off the loan, so you don't have loan payments. But the best way to make money in Farming Simulator is to have more land. So if I could buy more of the fields around me, field 7 looks kind of small, and value is 143,000. This one over here is 44,000. I can buy that field. I don't have the money for it. I'm not even sure what the crop in it is. It might tell me. No, it does not tell me. Corn. Oh, is it really? It's a cornfield. Oh. And I've got a corn header, so I could harvest that field, and it's 44,000. That might be a good spending my money. This field is probably 500,000. I'm close. Then we've got this field is probably 1.5 million. No, it's also about 500,000. These fields over here are tiny, but 38,000 to buy that field. Is it green beans? It's green beans. It's going to cost me 500,000 to buy a harvester for that field. This field is 82,000. Spinach? No. Peas? No. Canola? Yes. So 82,000, and I've got a draper. I could harvest that. So it's not going to cost me extra. I could buy that, and I could borrow 60,000, buy that field and harvest it and keep the canola for me. That's good. And also you can sell a field for the same price you bought it normally, unless you're running a mod, which there are no mods for that yet. But in the past I've played with sort of more realistic land values, where to purchase a field is generally 20% higher than general cost, and to sell the field you lose 10% of the sell value. So purchase to sale is lower. So you can't flip fields. You can't buy a field, harvest the crop, steal the crop, sell the field. So you've gained the crop and it hasn't cost you anything. Running that mod, which I've done since Farming Simulator 17, it's just not available on 25. Does mean that I can I'm strongly discouraged from field flipping, but as a general rule, I don't do that. The other thing was it's also a variable price field, so sometimes you can pick up a field at half price, and other times you can pick up the field for 2 to 3 times the normal price, at which point I'm not buying the field unless I absolutely desperately have to have it. And I did have that back in, I think it was Farm Sim 22. I bought something, and I got into a production chain, and unfortunately I needed sunflower oil, and I did not have any sunflowers planted. I think I planted the wrong thing. I planted canola and I should have planted sunflowers. Whoops. And then when I looked at the map, there were only 2 fields with sunflowers on them, and both of them, the field price was 180% of normal price. If I want those sunflowers, I'm going to have to pay that, because I need the sunflowers to get the production chain running so I can actually do the production. So I did, but normally I'd be looking around and saying, okay, I've got the choice of 5 fields here. I got enough money from last year's harvest to buy one of them. Which one's the cheapest? I'll buy that this year. And then work up from there. Okay, so as we know, all of our fields need lime. I don't have a lime spreader. I do not have lime. So probably not going to bother too much about pH right now. Also, we're going to get another cut of grass. So I don't want to spread lime on this field until winter. Then we'll spread the lime, let it soak in, and the field will be better for next year. Actually, all of the fields need ploughed. Oh. Okay, I might need to check grassland care, because I believe there was a mod that so many distractions. Where is grassland care? Is grassland care a thing anymore? That's a good question. Grassland care. No, that's just a roller. Rollers and weeders improve the yield. Unfortunately, I don't know that those work with the thing, with precision farming. There used to be a sort of a field harrow. What the heck? Oh, that's a mulcher. Oh, okay. And we'll look at mulchers and rollers eventually, but right now they're an extra expense we don't need to worry about right now. But yeah, there used to be a field harrow mod in one of the versions. which basically you just drag that over a grass field, and it basically aerates the ground, which has the equivalent of removing the field needs to be ploughed tags. Fortunately, not a thing we can do in 25 right now. So we'll get second cut here. I will fertilise this field, so at least we get some yield improvement. But after we've done that, I think we need to look at ripping up the grass in this field and reseeding it, just so we've reset the needs ploughed state. I can probably finagle some tasks to improve the environmental score in this field. Grass fields generally are very difficult to